He took her, not in the dark, not by force, but with a suit, a smile, and a lie. He told the judge I was unstable, dangerous, that Lily cried when I picked her up. He said I screamed too loud, loved too hard, held on too tight. And they believed him. I lost custody before I even knew I was in a fight. One morning, I woke up and her bed was cold. But I didn't scream. I didn't fight in public. I fought in silence. I built a case. I stacked truth over time, brick by brick. And when the judge finally opened that last folder, my daughter ran past her father and leapt into my arms. My name is Emily Ward, and I used to believe that love alone could hold a family together. We lived in Greenville, South Carolina, in a white 2-story house with blue shutters and a porch swing Daniel never fixed. Our daughter Lily had the smallest bedroom, but she loved it the most. She taped drawings to the walls and named each of her stuffed animals. She was 6 years old and had Daniel's curls, my eyes, and the biggest laugh you've ever heard. I thought we were happy, until the lies started hiding in his silence. Daniel had always been a little distant, a little tired, a little not tonight. But I chalked it up to work. He was an architect, often up late, sketching blueprints and staring at his phone like it had secrets. And it did. I found out about the affair the same night Lily lost her first tooth. I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, and his phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, I would have ignored it. But something in me, call it instinct, call it betrayal in my bones, told me to look. Her name was Madison, 24, intern. She sent a photo that made my stomach drop. Daniel walked in, saw the phone in my hand, and didn't say a word. I didn't scream. I just asked, "How long?" He shrugged. That shrug broke more than my heart. It shattered the illusion that I mattered, that our daughter mattered. That night, I slept on the couch. The next morning, I made him coffee just like always and told him I wanted a divorce. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just said, "I want peace." He agreed, or so I thought. We agreed on everything, or so he let me believe. I told him he could have the car, the boat. I didn't care. All I wanted was Lily. And he looked me in the eye and said, "Of course." But Daniel always smiled when he lied. Weeks went by. We filed paperwork. Lily stayed with me mostly. He visited on weekends. We even celebrated her birthday together in the backyard, pretending for one day that things were normal. Then one Friday morning, I woke up, walked into Lily's room, and her bed was empty. Gone. No note, no call, no warning. I called Daniel, voicemail, again and again. I drove to his place, knocked, pounded, no answer. And then my phone buzzed. An email from a law firm. Subject line: emergency custody granted. My knees buckled. Inside the email were words I will never forget. Based on preliminary evidence of mental instability, the court has awarded temporary full custody of Lily Ward to her father, Daniel Ward. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't unstable. I was a mother who had been betrayed. I called the number, got a secretary, was told to respect the court's order. That weekend was the longest of my life. I sat in Lily's room, hugged her favorite bear, played her bedtime songs on my phone like she could hear them. I stared at the stars and wondered if she missed me. Monday morning, I walked into the courthouse hair tied, eyes puffy, spine straight. I sat in front of a judge who didn't know my name, facing a lawyer who smiled like Daniel used to. He called me emotionally erratic, said I was prone to depressive episodes. They showed screenshots of texts I sent during postpartum. They showed a video of me crying in the kitchen footage from our home camera I didn't know he had saved. No one asked why I was crying. They just played the tape. And then silence. Daniel didn't speak. He didn't have to. The silence did the damage. The judge ordered Lily to remain with Daniel until the next hearing. I walked out of that courtroom not just without my daughter, but without my dignity. And yet I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. I went home. I closed the door. And I started building something stronger than anger. A plan. I didn't leave my house for 2 days. Not out of grief, not out of fear, but because I knew if I stepped outside too soon, I might explode. Instead, I stayed in Lily's room. I sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the spot where her pillow used to be. I memorized the soft indent her little head had made, the way her stuffed giraffe still leaned sideways against the wall. the scent of lavender shampoo still lingering on her blanket. She was gone, but her world hadn't left, and neither would I. By Monday, I had made up my mind. If they were going to paint me as unfit, then I would become undeniable. I started with a lawyer, not some flashy billboard name with a deep voice and a Rolex. I found Alicia Monroe. She worked out of a modest office in Charleston, wore no makeup, spoke gently, but with eyes that cut glass. When I told her everything, every betrayal, every manipulation, she didn't flinch. She just said, "We don't fight fire with fire, Emily. We bring water, evidence, truth." And I nodded, because for the first time in weeks, I felt like someone saw me. We began with documentation. Alicia asked for everything: medical records, therapy logs, text messages, voicemails, anything that showed I wasn't just a mother in pain, but a mother in control. I handed over a folder so thick I had to carry it with both hands. And then I got to work. While Daniel posted beach pictures with Lily on Instagram trying to look like Father of the Year, I was interviewing character witnesses. Our neighbor, Mrs. Carlson, who watched me rock Lily to sleep when she had croup. My old OB-GYN, who wrote a letter confirming my postpartum depression had been mild, temporary, and resolved without medication. Lily's kindergarten teacher, who told us how Lily cried every Monday morning after staying with her dad. And then we got the footage. Alicia subpoenaed Daniel's vehicle's internal dash cam. Apparently, his fancy SUV recorded everything. And on one of those drives, we caught him, screaming at Lily, calling her spoiled, saying, "You always ruin everything, just like your mother." The footage wasn't long, maybe 40 seconds, but it was everything. I watched that video 10 times. I memorized the way Lily's voice quivered when she said, "I just wanted to go home." I knew then I wasn't fighting to win. I was fighting to save. 6 weeks passed. The court set a hearing. This time, I didn't wear black. I wore blue, Lily's favorite color. My hair was pulled back. No makeup, just a steady breath and a folder of truth. Daniel was already there when I arrived. He looked polished, confident, like he knew the script. His lawyer smirked at me, like she expected a repeat performance. But today wasn't a performance. It was a reckoning. We opened with my testimony. I told them everything, but only once. No tears, no theatrics. Just the timeline, the facts. I admitted my postpartum struggles. But I showed the therapy notes, the progress, the completion. Then came the witnesses. Mrs. Carlson, my doctor, my teacher friend. Each of them spoke like people who knew me, not headlines. Daniel kept shaking his head, scribbling notes. His lawyer objected 5 times. Overruled, every single time. Then came the video. The courtroom went silent as Alicia pressed play. The screen lit up with Daniel's face red with rage, and Lily's voice so small, so honest. By the time it ended, no one moved. Not the judge, not the clerk, not even Daniel. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something, but he didn't respond. Then the judge cleared her throat. She asked Daniel if he wanted to respond. He stood, smoothed his jacket, looked at me, and for the first time in forever, he looked afraid. He muttered something about stress, frustration, taken out of context, but no one believed him. Because context doesn't make a child cry like that. The judge turned to me. "Do you have anything else you'd like to say, Ms. Ward?" I stood, held the bear Lily had left behind, and said, "I'm not perfect, but I never abandoned her. Not in a tantrum, not in heartbreak, not in a courtroom." I sat down and waited. The judge didn't rush. She flipped pages, closed the folder, and looked me in the eye. "This court finds the mother, Emily Ward, fit and capable. Primary custody will be restored immediately." My heart stopped. Daniel slumped. And I cried. Not because I'd won, but because Lily would finally come home. The day Lily came home, the sky opened up. It didn't rain, it poured, as if the universe itself decided to cleanse everything we'd been through. I waited on the porch, soaked, arms open, and when the social worker's car pulled into the driveway, I didn't run. I couldn't. My knees wouldn't move, but Lily did. She opened the door, looked at me for one heartbeat, and then ran straight into my arms. She was heavier than I remembered, taller, her curls longer, but her sobs were the same. "I missed you, Mommy," she whispered, and I held her so tight I thought we might both disappear. That night, I didn't ask her about Daniel. I didn't probe. I didn't press. I just let her be 6 years old again. We made grilled cheese, watched Frozen. She fell asleep with her head on my lap, one hand clutching my shirt like if she let go, it would all vanish. And I wept. For the months we'd lost, for the guilt I couldn't shake, for the fire I'd walk through to get her back. The next morning, I started over, not just as a mother, but as a woman who had survived war. I enrolled Lily back at her old school. I repainted her room, letting her choose the color. She picked sunflower yellow. We planted actual sunflowers in the backyard the next weekend. We called them the comeback garden. But healing wasn't instant. Some nights, she woke up screaming. Some days, she'd ask, "Why did Daddy say you were bad?" I didn't have perfect answers. But I gave her the truth, wrapped in love. Sometimes people say mean things when they're hurting. I'd tell her, "But you're safe now. That's what matters." I put her in art therapy. She drew a picture of a bear with a broken heart. I kept it in my wallet, because I needed the reminder, too, that just because the storm passed didn't mean the damage was gone. A month later, Daniel filed for visitation. It didn't surprise me. Men like Daniel don't care about consequences. They care about control. He requested alternating weekends. Alicia called me the moment she got the motion. "He's going to try to flip this," she warned. "Make it look like he's the one extending an olive branch." I nodded, but I wasn't afraid this time. I told her, if he wants to see Lily, he's going to have to face everything he did, in writing, on record. We filed a countermotion, supervised visitation, licensed therapist present, public location only. Daniel balked, called me vindictive, but the judge didn't buy it. She remembered the tape, and Lily, and me. So the order was signed. His first visitation was scheduled at a family therapy center in Columbia. Lily didn't want to go. She cried the whole car ride. I told her she didn't have to say anything she didn't want to. When we got there, the therapist was waiting. So was Daniel. He brought flowers. Lily hid behind me, and when he tried to hand them to her, she said, "You yelled at me in the car." Daniel froze. The therapist took notes, and I stood still like stone, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. Lily deserved to say what he tried to silence. And she did. Session after session, she opened up. She talked about how he blamed her when things spilled, how he said I was crazy, how he threw her toy when she cried, and Daniel just listened. No more smirking, no more spinning, just silence. Eventually, he stopped coming. No explanation, no apology, just absence. And somehow that hurt less, because I no longer needed closure from a man who weaponized my love. I had Lily, and Lily had me. 6 months passed. Her laughter returned. Not the forced giggle at school pickup, the real one, the belly laugh over burnt cookies, the shriek when a butterfly landed on her finger, the kind of joy that can't be faked. One night, as I tucked her in, she asked, "Are you proud of me?" I said, "More than you know." She smiled. "I think the sunflowers are proud too." I kissed her forehead and whispered, "They should be. They watched you grow through the rain." Because that's what we were now. Not victims. Not a broken family, but something tougher, stronger, rooted in truth, blooming through the mud, and though the fight had nearly destroyed me, I wouldn't change a single step of the battle, because it led me back to her. Some people think the courtroom is where battles end, but for me, it was where my real fight began. Because winning custody wasn't the finish line. It was the first breath after drowning. And healing doesn't come with a gavel, it comes in whispers, in questions, in the small, hollow moments no one else sees. Like the time Lily asked me, did I do something bad? We were eating pancakes, strawberries on top, just another morning. But her voice cracked like she was still stuck in the back seat of his car, waiting for kindness that never came. I dropped my fork, got down to her eye level, and said the words I should have screamed long ago. "You are good, you are brave, and none of this was your fault." She blinked, nodded, then asked if she could have extra syrup, and I laughed so hard I cried. That's how it is when you raise a child from ruin. The joy comes back in slivers. You learn to cherish crumbs. We kept going, day by day. Some mornings were soft, others sharp. Triggers hid in the smallest things. A certain tone, a slammed door, the word crazy, but every time the darkness crept in, I fought it with light. Books, stories, walks, therapy, and presence. Above all, presence. Because Lily didn't need perfection. She needed to know I wasn't going anywhere. That this time, love meant staying. And so I stayed at every school recital, even when she forgot the words. In every waiting room, holding her hand during checkups, during nightmares, when she crawled into my bed and whispered, "Don't let go." I never did. And slowly she stopped asking because she knew. One day, out of nowhere, she brought me a crayon drawing. It showed two stick figures under a giant sun. She labeled one me, the other safe. She had drawn me as safety, and that broke me in the most beautiful way. Meanwhile, Daniel vanished. No calls, no letters, no second attempt. It was like once the court stripped away his control, his interest died too. And for a while, that haunted me. How could a father disappear so easily? But then I realized he was never truly a father. He was an architect of image. And the moment the foundation cracked, he ran. Good. Because Lily didn't need a man who built walls. She needed one who built bridges. And I would be both. I would be mother and mapmaker, showing her the way back to herself. As summer rolled in, I started writing again. Journaling, blogging. At first, just for me. Then for others. I shared my story anonymously, and the messages poured in. Women who lost their kids. Women who fought like hell to get them back. Women who were still in the thick of it, bruised, but breathing. I responded to every single one, because I remembered what silence felt like, what it was like to scream in a room where no one listens, and I vowed no woman would stand alone on my watch. That's when a journalist reached out. She'd read my blog, asked if I'd be willing to share my journey publicly. At first, I said no. Too raw, too soon. But then I looked at Lily painting sunflowers in the yard, and I thought, maybe it's time. So I said yes. The article went viral. Headline: She fought in silence and won her daughter back. I didn't expect the wave that followed. Emails, phone calls, court advocates asking me to speak. I was just a woman with a scarred heart and a stubborn soul. But somehow, that was enough. They asked if I'd testify for a custody reform bill. So I did. I stood before legislators and told them what it felt like to be erased by lies. To have your motherhood reduced to a courtroom myth. To fight not just a man but a machine. And I ended with this: I didn't win because I was lucky. I won because I never stopped telling the truth. And because one little girl refused to stop believing in her mother, there was silence. Then standing applause. Lily watched the replay that night. She clapped too, then crawled into my lap and said, "You're my hero." I kissed her hair and whispered, "You're mine." Because in the end, this wasn't just my victory. It was hers. We rebuilt each other, brick by brick. And when the world finally saw the house we made, they called it brave. But to us, it was simply home. The first time I spoke on a stage, I almost walked off. The microphone was too tall, the lights too hot, my hands shaking. But then I looked out into the audience and saw her. Front row, little legs swinging, cheeks dimpled, curls bouncing. Lily. She gave me a thumbs up. And just like that, I remembered who I was. Not just a mother, not just a survivor, but a voice. A voice for the women who were still in courtrooms, still writing affidavits at 3 a.m., still being called unstable for daring to grieve. So I stayed, and I spoke. I told the story, not the polished version, the real one. The rage, the gaslighting, the way a man with money and charm can twist the law like ribbon, the way I almost lost myself before I lost custody, and how I fought my way back, not with fury, but with proof, with strategy, with patience sharp enough to cut steel. The applause didn't matter. What mattered were the hands that reached for mine afterward. The women who whispered, "Me too." The men who said, "I didn't know." The lawyers who promised, "We'll do better." And most of all, the young girl who ran up to me, maybe 13, who said, "My mom's fighting for me. I'm gonna tell her about you." I bent down and said, "Tell her she's stronger than she thinks." Because she is. They all are. Every woman who's ever had to prove she's good enough to love her own child. We are forged in fire. Not perfect, but precise. And that precision becomes legacy. I started a nonprofit, Bear and Sunflower, named after Lily's drawing and her stuffed bear. We help mothers find legal aid, trauma counselors, safe housing. We don't advertise. We just show up. Like we wish someone had shown up for us. One night, while stuffing envelopes for a fundraiser, Lily asked me, "Do you think Daddy will ever say sorry?" I paused, then said, "I don't think he knows how." She thought for a second, then nodded. "That's okay. I already forgave him, not for him, for me." And that's when I knew she wasn't just healing. She was rising. Better than me. Braver. Kinda. She started writing too. Little poems. One was titled "My Mom is a Castle." She read it to her class, won a ribbon, framed it and gave it to me on Mother's Day. I hung it by the door, so I'd see it every time I walked into the world. A reminder that even ruins can become kingdoms. Years passed. We moved to a smaller house, cozier, closer to town. She made friends, joined the swim team, wrote stories about magical foxes and fearless girls. And I kept speaking, wrote a book. It became a quiet bestseller. Not because it was loud, but because it was true. Because people are hungry for truth spoken gently. One day I got a letter from Daniel. No return address, just 5 words. You were always the better parent. No apology, no explanation. Just that. I didn't cry, didn't reply. I put the letter in a drawer and left it there. Because the truth wasn't his to give me. It had always been mine. It lived in every hug, every bedtime story, every time Lily said, I love you more. That was my verdict, my justice, my proof. I never needed his validation. I had her, and she had me. One afternoon, we stood in the comeback garden. The sunflowers were tall now, some even taller than Lily. She wore a yellow dress and a grin that could stop traffic. Do you think flowers remember, she asked. Remember what I said. Where they started. I looked at her, at the dirt-stained gloves, the soil beneath her nails, and I whispered, yes, that's what makes them bloom. 'Cause we remember too, not with bitterness, but with clarity, with the kind of knowing that never dims. We remember who tried to bury us, and how we grew anyway. And now every time I take the stage, or answer a call from a mother on the edge, or hold Lily's hand before she walks into her first school dance, I remember, and I say, we made it, not without scars, not without storms, but stronger, wiser, brighter. We made it, and now we light the way.